Talking about the ABC, the boss, David Anderson, he claims the national broadcaster is not biased. I mean, we'll just give you another example of the nonsense there. Well, today he had to front a Senate committee to defend this ludicrous position. Like this example of bias from an ABC reporter identifying as Aboriginal.
For First Nations people, for my people, this is a very important day to remember our ancestors and those who fought for many decades to improve the living standards for our people, and remember that it always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
Joining me on Newswatch is Sophie Ellsworth, media writer of The Australian. Sophie, you were covering this inquisition today. How did the ABC boss deal with that example of ABC bias?
Well, Andrew, great to be here. Look, David Anderson basically said when Bridget Brennan, the Indigenous Affairs editor at the ABC, a very senior position, was saying always was, always will be Aboriginal land, she was just reflecting a perspective. He dismissed any claims of bias. And Andrew, this is what we see time and time again. It was also noted that in her coverage on Australia Day, she said in one interview with an Indigenous man, she said it's been a tough year for our mob, hasn't it? Now, I contacted Bridget Brennan this afternoon to see what she had to say about the fact now the ABC ombudsman is investigating her comments in what is expected to be straight news reporting on the ABC. But on Australia Day, I would argue we saw some pretty partisan and divisive comments from a reporter who is supposed to be neutral, Andrew.
Yes, here is David Anderson talking about her.
And always was, always will be is a common term that's been used by companies, it's been used by many people to reflect the fact that we have the oldest living continuous culture in this country. It is not a statement of intent, rather than it is a statement that is commonly used. And I think that when that cross happened to Bridget, that Bridget was reflecting the perspective that she was encountering when she was there. We have somebody who is a First Nations person who will identify as a First Nations person openly in these crosses, as well as reflecting the perspectives of others, but quite clearly doing that. We want to satisfy ourselves that that is calling out a personal perspective as opposed to a broader one. So you need the qualification for it.
I mean, the dripping of politics there. First Nations, for instance, is a loaded political term for Aborigines borrowed from Canada. And another common phrase that you don't hear on the ABC is that we're one country and forget race. No race division in this country, right? You don't hear commentators say, oh, look, by the way, Bridget, I don't believe in this racial division. You don't hear that. Only one view. I mean, seriously, how does he expect us to take this thing seriously?
Well, Andrew, we've got quite a few reporters in the ABC. Bridget Brennan is one who have very senior roles in editorial. And it appears ABC management just go always on the defence. Now, why in an Australia Day report are you splitting the room and saying it always was, always will be Aboriginal lands?
Correct.
And it was only that I did a report on this. It resulted in numerous complaints following to the Ombudsman that they are now investigating it. So let's see what the Ombudsman comes back with. Let's have an open mind, Andrew. But we know how often these things fall.